Hello. So, this is my fifth take of this lesson. I've been really not on it today. I don't know what's up with me. Um, this will be my final one though. Um, I got a little baby Jesus. Oh, that's funny. A little baby Jesus to help me out. He wasn't with me my other four takes, so hopefully this will be the final one. The word today is the work and the life. I was really enjoying reading this earlier today in the morning. It really spoke a lot to me and kind of just aligned with how I've been going about this year. So I'm excited for that. I guess before we get into it, a little bit about me. This month has been fine. I've been doing bad. I've been pretty consistent with what it is I need to do. I've been having a good sense of stewardship. I think in terms of me and my walk with God, it's not necessarily like a separate thing anymore. It's more just like kind of becoming one thing, it's kind of just becoming who I am. So yeah, I'm pretty grateful for that. So I guess I'll just jump into the word. In view of God's example, what should be our attitude towards others, even those who mistreat us? I think this is very much aligning with how I've been going about this month. I don't have enemies, but I have been trying to nurture relationships with people that I guess you could say I'm not very fond of. There's a big thing where people are like, protect your peace. And I'm not saying that people are necessarily disrupting my peace, but I don't see myself really getting along with everyone, and for a while I used to believe that was just normal, natural, like we're not meant to be friends or getting along with everyone, but I feel like in a ministry it's important to work on that, work past that, like, because that is in a sense a limitation that we have, but if I want to grow with God and develop my skills in terms of socializing and connecting with people, I do need to get past that, so that's kind of what I've been trying to work on this month. And it gives us a scripture, Matthew 5:44 and 45. Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. Very powerful. Second note, what is the work of angels of heaven? Gives us Hebrews 1:14. Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? Angels are ever engaged in working for the happiness and salvation of human beings. A selfish heart would consider it humiliating to serve those who are in every way inferior, but this is the work and joy of sinless angels. That's I guess that kind of aligns with the first note, like we kind of have to find joy in like working past our limitations, so to speak, if the angels are doing it, like, angels are, I don't even know like necessarily what they are, but like if they're doing it for us, we should do it for others, that's just the way I see it, pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. When Jesus lived on earth, what was the one great object of his life? Matthew 20:28. The Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. Jesus didn't come to this earth for a life of ease or to devote himself to caring for his own needs and desires. Rather, he toiled persistently and untiringly for the salvation of lost men and women. From the manger to Calvary, he followed the path of self-denial, never asking to be released from difficult tasks, painful travels, or exhausting care and labor. He once told his disciples that his food and drink were to do the will of him that sent me and finish his work. That's John 4:34. Every other consideration was secondary and subservient to this great desire to bless and help others. Something that my ministry touched up on last Friday was, it was something that I wasn't aware of until they brought it up, And there's a lot, with this, you tend to get like some hindsight bias every now and then. And that's what I experienced. And that was that God needs to lead our life. It's not, he shouldn't be a support, God needs to be in charge of every like decision and, I guess just like every aspect of our life. We tend to just use God as a support, and it doesn't work that way. I definitely am guilty of doing that. Like I would only pray to God when I needed something, or if I needed like help with anything, or if I was already in the thick of a situation, but rather like I should pray prior to that. I should be reading the word prior to that, like looking to his guidance prior to anything that I go through. That's when the blessings come, I believe. What does Jesus's example mean for us? And it gives us 1 Peter 2:21. For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps. The spirit of Christ's self-sacrificing love is the spirit that pervades and controls heaven, the very essence of its happiness and joy. This is the spirit that all who truly follow Christ will possess, the work that they will do. All right. I think I'll just touch up. Oh wait, sorry. I think I skipped the page. Okay. How will this effort to bless others react upon ourselves? Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye met withal, it shall be measured to you again. That's Luke 6:38. The act of blessing others will react in multiplied blessings upon ourselves. Indeed, it was for this very reason that God designed we should have a part in spreading the plan of salvation. It is our privilege to become like him, and then to spread that knowledge of God, of Jesus, to others. This is the highest honor and greatest joy God can bestow upon men. In this way we are brought nearest to him by doing the very work he too came to do. God might have given the work of carrying the gospel to angels, allowing them to have all the responsibility and joy. He might have used some other means. But in his great love for us, he allows us to work with him, with Christ Jesus, and with the angels, so that we can share the joy and the blessings that come from unselfish ministry. I think that's very, like you wouldn't think it, but like, especially like if you're new to the ministry, like you wouldn't think that like doing something not for yourself would be a blessing, or that you would find pleasure in it. I spent the better part of last year, prioritizing things outside of the ministry, and I found myself being very like miserable in a sense. I found that God kind of just like, once I got hooked onto his ministry, he didn't let me go. As far as I try to distance myself or put myself away from God, like that thread was just still there. I couldn't really do anything about it. Like that feeling was just always within me, and I'm grateful. It's a very good thing that was the case. But you'll find that like if you really have a true grateful heart, a true open heart, for God, life outside of ministry, outside of God, will just never hit the same. And that's where I'm at now. Like I just I surrendered to God, and I'm like, you know what, like just use me in any way that you can, like to spread your word, to help bring others to your ministry. That's where I'm at right now, and I'm very grateful. Now this next portion is kind of long, so I think I'm just gonna like read, and not give so much commentary. What are some of the specific benefits that come to us as a result of working with Jesus in ministry for others? We will be brought into closer union and sympathy with Christ through sharing his sufferings. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice, inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf. That is 1 Peter 4, verses 12 to 14 and 16. It's true that to work as Christ worked will often involve suffering and pain, but every act of self-sacrifice for the good of someone else will bind us closer to the Redeemer who also suffered for others. It will endear us all the more to him, and also help us understand what he endured, who though he was rich, yet for our sakes he became poor. Only as we live out God's purpose for us can life truly be worthwhile. Yeah, honestly, I feel like since I started my walk with God, like things definitely got harder in a sense, especially with like how I perceive life. I'm sorry, there's a freaking spider web on my leg. Definitely, like, as hard as things got, I do feel like I definitely like started enjoying life a little bit more. I feel like, for such a long time I was definitely like living my life for others, and now I feel like I can fully like just truly live my life, like without the care of like others or what they think or what they say, like obviously it's not perfected, but it's a lot better than what it used to be. I'm definitely not like wasting my life in the pursuit of like meaningless pleasure, or meaningless relationships with friends or girls or anyone really, I guess you could say, So I feel like, a lot of people, like, my understanding of it used to be like, oh, like I'm bound to Christ, I'm bound to this strict life. But really it's just like I feel so much better, like just like trying to apply all the qualities of Christ, like patience and compassion. Like I feel like it's not just beneficial like to the world and to society and to like relationships with people, like it's just like you just develop into a great person, and I don't see why everyone wouldn't want that, for themselves. Second one, we will feel the need of a still greater knowledge and deeper experience with Jesus. It gives us 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10. My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecution, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. 100%. When we work for Jesus as he intends we should, to win souls for him, the obstacles placed in our way by Satan and the awesome magnitude of the task will make us realize that we cannot be successful in our own strength or abilities. We will feel a desperate need of a deeper experience and a greater knowledge of spiritual things. We will hunger and thirst for righteousness as never before. As we plead with God for greater blessings and stronger faith, we will receive what we need. Opposition and trial will drive us to our Bibles and to our knees, and the result will be a growth in grace and in the knowledge of Jesus. 1000%. Feel like, like when I was, so basically I started kind of getting back into my fitness around the same time I started going back to church, prioritizing the two, and I feel like they complemented each other very well. They went very well hand in hand, because like as well as I was like seeing the spiritual aspect of like how difficult things to be, like I was also feeling it physically, like it was just a good way to like, I feel like a lot of people are like, I need something physical, I need to like, I won't believe in God unless I see him, for myself type mentality. But I feel like exercising at the same time like definitely played a big help, because like I was like, man, like, I definitely had a lot of moments of weakness, especially with running, like when you run, like your body's consistently telling you to stop, but at the time, like, I'm like praying to God. I'm like, God, like, please don't let my knees explode. Like, make me fast, And granted, I was eating terrible, like, but that doesn't just happen over time. Like, God gives you the challenges and you develop over time, and like that's where like the righteousness comes into play, because it doesn't mean anything if you're just given these things. You need to be given these challenges. That's the way we grow, and that's where you need to kind of trick your mind, like you need to like enjoy the sufferings in a sense, like, don't get me wrong, like, challenges suck, like running sucks, but it's very necessary. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we need to do in this life that is necessary for our overall development, Christ being number one and our health being number two. Like, we need to prioritize these things, like, for the better of, like, not just for ourselves, but like in leading others. Number 3, we will develop a Christ-likeness of character and have peace and happiness. It gives us Philippians 4:11 and 13. I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthen me. In the spiritual world as well as in the physical, strength comes by exercise. The only way to grow in grace is to be actively engaged to the extent of your ability in the work Christ has given you to do. To try to live spiritually by always receiving blessings from God, but never sharing them with others, is as debilitating as it would be to always eat but never labor. The Christian who does not exercise his God-given powers not only fails to grow, but loses the strength he once had. Unselfish labor for others gives depth, stability, and Christ-likeness to the character. Those who thus cooperate with Jesus in his work will have clear spiritual perception and a growing faith and an increased power in prayer. I mean, amen. I don't know what else to say to that, It's just, I mean, yeah, honestly, it's just like, when I'm very guilty of being prideful, like, especially when it comes down to something that, like, you worked on, like, yourself. And in terms of me, like, I felt like I've definitely, like, have had a lot of moments where, like, I felt like I was, like, kind of doing stuff, like, on my own. Like, it's hard not to feel, like, proud of that, but the idea is to not make it be, like, your whole personality, if that makes sense. You don't want to, like, achieve all these great things and then, like, be prideful in heart due to it, like, it just turns people away, like, and it's not a good look on you, especially if you're in the ministry. You want to be, like, humble as you're achieving all these things. That's what I try to implement. Granted, I'm no better than anyone that outwardly expresses their pride. Like, I definitely feel certain things in my heart, and that just because I'm not, like, outwardly expressing things doesn't mean that, like, I don't have, like, those thoughts in my mind and in my heart, but I'm actively working on, like, bettering that. We need God, like we have to recognize that it is through God that we are able to achieve what it is that what we can do, if that makes sense. And I suppose I'll end with this one. How has Jesus shown us that it is not only the talented and influential whom he has called to work for him? Mark 13:34. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work. Many excuse themselves from service for Christ because they feel others have been given far greater abilities and advantages. They think that God has given talents only to a certain favored few, and that all others are excused from sharing either the labor or the reward. But Jesus does not picture it so in his parable. The master of the household called his servants and gave to every man his work. It is true, some have greater abilities than others, but the master requires only that we use and develop the talent he has entrusted to us, and to all he has given some talent to be used for him. I think I'm a big believer in that, we all have, like, we all have talents, and, special abilities, I feel like it's very much suppressed, like, in this world. And I feel like that's what the devil is doing, you know? I feel like, you know, loneliness is such an epidemic in our world, you know, that like many people tend to conform. You know, I see it everywhere I go, you know, like it's so hard to see like an individual these days, you know, like I feel like just because like for the sake of not wanting to be alone, you kind of suppress like all your desires, your thoughts, you know, like you can't like share like all like the things you like to do alone, you know, just for the sake of like not wanting to look corny or like lame, I guess, you know, in front of your friends. Like everyone wants to be like hard and a gangster these days, or everyone wants to be like I don't know, like everyone just cares so much about like their perception, you know, like, which granted, yes, you know, reputation is very important, but at the same time, like it's not worth like not being you, you know. Like I feel like once I started like just focusing my relationship with God, I kind of just like started really loving who I was as a person, you know, like faults and all, you know. I'm by no means perfect, you know. And I feel like, you know, people are always saying like life is too short, and I don't think life is too short, but I think when you tend to like I don't think life is short in the sense that like if you live it to its fullest, you know, like if you're not afraid to like, you know, just be who you are, then like I don't think life is short, because you find that you're not just like putting on a mask, you know, like that the days are the same all the time because like you're with the same people, and like, you know, like you're conforming, like you're living your life the way you want to, you know. And that's what God wants for us, but not at the risk of like us losing our salvation or anything like that, you know. Like we have to be, you know, obviously careful, but you know, we should be happy with our life, you know. We are all unique in God's image. We're made in his own image, you know. So I feel like, you know, we don't have to be like, you know, like granted, yes, there are many talented people, like there are many talented speakers, but like we're not gonna get any better at it like if we don't try. Like this is my fifth take, and you know, by no means am I like a preacher or anything, but like I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna have days like today, you know, where like I'm not at my best, you know. You're just gonna have those days. You gotta take the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, you know. That's just how life is. We have to accept that, you know. Some days you're gonna, you know, forget your shoes and have to go all the way home and come back and start your run super late. That's just how life is, you know. Know what I'm saying? It's not meant to be perfect, you know. If we were just born with all these capabilities, then what necessarily makes us unique, you know? I love that, like, I mean, I don't love that I spent like an hour trying to not perfect this video, but like, you know, I'm grateful that like I'm able to make mistakes now and accept that, you know, and not be so mad at it, I guess, or have it ruin my day, you know. Like this is all necessary. Like the steps backward are part of the dance as well, you know. We gotta be grateful for everything, you know. What the heck is that? I'm sorry. Yeah, this will be my final take. I'm pretty happy with this. It's crazy because I feel like I actually prepared for this lesson, and I've never once had to like do multiple retakes, but my head just was not in it today. But regardless, I'm gonna get started on my run. I hope everyone's having a good day, good Wednesday. I think I'll keep bringing this little dude with me, just so got some company, you know what I'm saying. Next week I hope that I'll be better prepared, more fluent, I guess, with my lesson. I don't know what it was. It's funny because this lesson, when I was reading it at breakfast this morning, I was like, man, I'm gonna smoke this. And it couldn't have been a more of a rough start this morning. But you know, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'm gonna just get into it. Anyways, bye.